Welcome to another episode of Mindful Drawing. Emirates is fun, and let me be your guide today as we use drawing as a meditative practice to come into a space of awareness and open up some territory for us to contemplate that emptiness, that space between things, that void in the stillness that can bring peace or balance to the energy and franticness of a day, and create that harmony of rhythm through a bit of guided repetition of technique and breathing, to let go of our control by letting the eyes disconnect from our act of creative expression and then bringing them back to share in that exploration of a territory outside of us, inhabiting space, bringing it to our foreground of attention and letting the mindfulness of the drawing technique and the action right at hand bring us some degree of relaxation and openness. As always, feel free to draw with whatever suits you, whatever you have at hand. You can do it on the back of a note card, an envelope, a napkin, or a nice piece of Bristol with a pen that you like in your hand, or a pencil that feels silky on the page. These techniques are meant to be something you can use anywhere in the longer format of 20-30 minutes that we do here, or quickly in 5 minutes between meetings, or just to prime yourself up for a creative session, whether that's drawing, writing, painting, designing, letting the mind inhabit some space that's free from preconception for a little while to see what moves through us onto that page, and then take from that inspiration or just a bit of stillness as a guide for whatever else we may do in our day. Establish your space and let's draw together. What I thought we could begin in the warm-up is looking at a way of inscribing territories, just starting out by letting the pen form any kind of shape you're interested in, something that closes around itself, a circle or a bubble, and a few of them next to each other, leaving little gaps between, just to have some inside space and some outside space around, and make sure we've got ourselves in our seat and situated and some time to come into this space, and then forming a larger bubble around kind of the whole collection, wherever that kind of ends up being, to create these conditions of outside and inside and inside and outside. And in architecture, when we deal with these, we often use a form of hatching or technical shading, which is, I think, a very meditative practice, this kind of deliberate tracking of evenly spaced sequential parallel lines. So finding any shape, whether that's inside or outside of one, and just doing a few of them, kind of feel how that tracks. Something I may spend quite a lot of time using, may feel challenging and uncomfortable in terms of maintaining parallel conditions or starting and ending exactly where the eye sees that it should. And these are opportunities or areas for kind of practice and attention in the skill, or places to let it go a little bit, not be overly concerned with how straight or parallel or precise the lines are. That doesn't have to be the goal. And I think both directions can be interesting for this. Now I'm just warming up my hand to draw in a few different orientations to the paper, keeping it kind of fast and loose just to get a sense for how I'm feeling today and how you might feel engaging with that paper, drawing out or towards, drawing left or right, to begin to create some relationship between these shapes that demarcate voids or spaces here on the page. And whichever one you're in, as you begin to fill that space, we can transition over to the larger exercise and expand to find some entrance into this territory of forming our emptiness or forming our void, this balance or oscillation between the still and the active. I'm just going to start by actually closing my eyes, bringing the pen down somewhere, and just forming a rough circle as I get into this piece of paper, continuing the pen around in whatever I begin to see internally in that connection between my hand and my eyes. And as that motion starts to become fluid, tracking, kind of drawing us in a bit to the space that's forming there on the page. With your eyes closed or open, just begin to spin off from that orbit and begin a new one in the same direction or in the opposite direction, whatever feels comfortable for the location of your hand at that time. As we move around this territory in front of us, we might find sometimes the left direction picks up the orbit smoothly, other times the right. And as we enter into this repetitive motion, we can take a deep breath in, slow, and align the motion of the hand with that rise and fall of our breath. And then on the next exhale, let the orbit again leave that motion and find a new one, coming into that space of ease, of the oscillation in and out of our breath. Perhaps looking in this space of revolution, the connection between the in-breath and an orbit, in the out-breath and an orbit, keeping it smooth. And whenever you feel ready, leaving that off, moving through the space and beginning again to create that orbit. And if you're working on a small page with your eyes closed, feel free anytime to open the eyes as you're repositioning, just to keep on the space and not fall off onto your desk or hand or whatever's underneath your drawing surface. Or if you keep your eyes closed, just looking into that connection between the breath in and out, between the way the pen or pencil moves along the page. And as you feel free at any time or pace to, again, spin out from that location and begin again somewhere new. Just spending this time inside, finding stillness through the action as a way to establish a rhythm that lets us release some tension, release some attachment to our vision or our control here on the page, and have a little fun imagining this movement through space, this feeling through that emptiness behind our eyes. Perhaps even letting what we see internally shift to being just out there on the page. And keeping that alignment or communication between the breath and the movement, whether that's timing the periodic motion in and out to the orbits around these soft centers, or just finding some balance of flow between how you breathe in and out and the smoothness or pulsing of the way your hand might move on the page. And then feel free to keep the eyes opened or closed. You might, after finding some space internally, be nice to refresh that vision here in the territory that you've created. By opening them up and letting the eyes travel along with the tip of the pen. Less guiding and more observing the patterns that you've established in the time distanced from vision. Refreshing the connection between the eyes and the medium, the eyes and the hand. I like to keep in mind with this technique that's developing here an attention to oscillating directions to engage different muscles, different mechanisms connecting the hand and the mind, so that I'm both challenged with variety and supported by the technique and repetition, finding routine in this short local moment that is also flexible, adaptable in size, in extension, in direction, and speed. To use a little time here now that we're well established and integrated into this condition, to exercise some of that variety, that adaptability, to perhaps go fast and smooth, or periodic with acceleration and deceleration, as we allow these shapes to expand and define more of the page here. Eyes tracking the motion of the instrument around, free from controlling or informing our composition, just watching, observing where the hand goes as it follows the flow on the paper. Observing internally the differences you may feel as you draw close or near, fast or slow, smooth or with a rhythm. And taking some time to make a few more of these orbits to fill out some of that territory on the page. Perhaps letting the eyes come back into the play to guide the next movement or to reconnect with the whole to merge back into a nearby orbit and can find some ending to that continuous movement of the pen or pencil, whether that's abrupt or smoothly reintegrated into the page. And coming back to that observance or attention and awareness to the stillness and the emptiness we can find in moments of meditation or reflection, I'm going to begin to use these shapes to discover some in-between spaces, just to trace around the space between or within some of the squiggles and circles and orbits, to define some of these visual voids, boundaries that cap off territory of just paper from territory of drawing. And there may be one large zone. If you have a lot of overlaps, perhaps many small zones, or something in between. However your eye and hand begin to see fit to work through that area formed here on the page. This is a chance to move around through something established, something found, to let the mind wander into those little spaces between, to let it form these new spaces around and through, over and under, large, small, wherever they end up here on the page you establish. Trying to find some smoothness, whether that's fast or slow, to how you engage with the territory here. Letting the eyes work at different sizes and intensities, from the very small and very tight to the very large and fluid. And if you begin to run out of spaces on the paper, we can move in now to defining some of these voids with that technique of filling in a sequence of lines. Just something, again, back to our repetition of the hatch, that inhabitation and demarcation of in or out, a space in that action, not to fill, but to have some time and awareness to inhabiting. You can keep the direction of the hatch consistent if it feels comfortable from a specific angle that you may have found in the warm-up, or relative to the position you're sitting, so that you're not kind of working against your wrist or against the kinetics of your body. Or if you have a lot of freedom in your space, you can change it up, experiment in each new territory what may feel right or connected to that shape. The spacing between the lines, varying thick or thin, bringing the attention in to maintain consistency, or letting the attention empty out to just inhabit how the hand works through the space, Again, finding something that draws you in without bringing frustration or discomfort. Sometimes spending many hours at a drafting table at the end of a project, really just entering these spaces of repetitive parallel lines is where, in my experience, begin to organize, formulate the connections in a project, the sequential rhythm providing that openness or empty territory for the other parts of the mind to begin to work through and work around what may be at the forefront there, and whatever might come up as you're experiencing this drawing is letting it be part of the lines, letting it be part of the breath that connects to the motion of the drawing. And you can be in awareness of the difference between mapping small territories and large territories, slowing down perhaps for the longer lines where our hand and eye in a constant communication need a little more support to maintain some consistency or evenness. Or a soft breath and a stable core and action can let them just move on the page. In the smaller spaces might gain a little momentum, a little freedom or excitement to recognize that, and again bring some attention or awareness to it, bring the breath to it, to both inhabit it and also not let it run away with us, forgetting to breathe or keep our awareness on what we're doing and where we are. And just taking the next few minutes in quiet and stillness to inhabit these spaces, explore the in or the out, and use the technique of repetition to come to a stillness. Noticing in these large territories, my eyes kind of drift into an unfocus, and I can relax and let go a little bit of the precision and just try to maintain a start and a stop somewhere on the page. And as we approach our final minutes, feel free to continue working in these spaces, letting that drift from precision into observation, the relaxing a little bit of control in this time of practicing attention and awareness, where the outcome is only the time spent And when you feel ready, you can take a few deep breaths, perhaps put the pen or pencil down, or breathe with a few final lines. Remember where we begin in that connection between action and breathing, between presence and the body that we inhabit, and come back to its senses and awareness of what's around us. Engage with our full core, arms, neck that may have been into the space of the drawing. And flex and open up to prepare our eyes and hands for what comes next in the day. The sun is trying to emerge from the clouds as we emerge from this session of mindful practice. I hope you've found some stillness and a little bit of space of relaxation. I thank you for joining along, and if you like what we do here with mindful drawing, please give it a thumbs up below. Leave some comments, let me know some ideas you might have about techniques that might help you enter this space of creative expression or this space of free drawing and relaxation, things that open you up. I'm always open to suggestions of mediums to play with and ways to continue to evolve this practice each week. If you like what you see, I appreciate if you share it with your friends. Let them enter with us into this act of drawing together. I hope you have a wonderful day. Whatever you do, draw well. Thank you. For anyone in the have a great day. This is Works is Fun. Signing off.